Saturday game. It's every day you're either fueling up or you're refueling. It's one or the other. And just to be responsible. So my advice to high school kids is be responsible and take care of your body, particularly if you want to have longevity as an athlete. Unfortunately, many high school kids, on the female side at least, they go, if I'm thinner, I'll be better. And then they end up under eating, under fueling, underperforming, and getting injured. And, that's not the way to be an athlete, sitting on the bench. So food is fuel, but it's also health, and it helps to keep you healthy.
Yeah. I know back when I was younger, it sounds like back when you were younger, which would be a little bit longer ago, that the thinking was that you could put anything into your body and it could be used as fuel. How has that changed?
Every so often I talk to an athlete. I remember this one conversation it was with a Red Sox player who was eating a big Danish pastry or something. And he said, oh, I'm skinny. I can eat whatever I want. And it's like, I don't know. You've got to have quality calories. You don't want to put, you want to put premium nutrition into your gas tank and not junk food. So what you eat really matters. And it's all cumulative. So what was your question?
Just what type of foods are going in? We grew up kind of, at least when I was younger, is if you put anything in your body, it could be used as fuel. But we should be more aware of what we're taking in than that.
Yeah, I mean, you do want to put in quality calories into your body, quality food, and you want to have, some protein for building your muscles. You want to have some grains for fueling your muscles, some fruits and vegetables for vitamins and minerals, some dairy or some source of calcium for your bones and for your muscles to contract. So you need to eat at least 3, if not 4 different kinds of foods with a meal. And in 12 to 1,500 calories of, good clean food, a variety, a balance of different foods, you can get most of the nutrients that you're needing. So there's space for some fun food, but it's when people skip breakfast and have a donut, or skip lunch and just have a bag of potato chips, or they skip a granola bar instead of have a candy bar. So you don't have to have a perfect diet to have an excellent sports diet, but you want to have a balance. So I'm looking for 85 to 90% quality foods, 10 to 15% whatever. And some days whatever is apple, some days it's apple pie. But as long as you've got the balance of 85 to 90% quality foods, because I see some people these days that are eating too healthy, and that's a problem in itself. Yeah.
I think that's a different conversation
Yes.
right now. But definitely sounds like one to get into. So in endurance sports, and for that matter, any sport, different energy systems are being trained to maximize performance. These different energy systems require different types and amounts of food to fuel them. Could you dive into that a bit and also talk about when one should begin fueling for the next workout?
Well, you're either fueling up or you're refueling. It's one or the other. So that you start fueling for the next workout after you finish the first workout. And so again, it's called be responsible, plan your day. You want to surround your workout with food. And so if you train in the morning, you have part of your breakfast before you train, the rest of it afterwards. If you train at lunchtime, maybe you have half a sandwich beforehand, the rest of your lunch afterwards. If you're, so that is, the goal is to always to surround your workout with food. And I keep forgetting all of your questions.
Could you talk more about how you train different fields?
So does a bodybuilder need a different diet than a marathoner? And every athlete needs grains, fruits, and vegetables to fuel their muscles. So even if you're lifting weights, I mean, if you look at guys that are in the gym, they're in there like an hour, 2 hours. That's, I sort of call that endurance exercise.
Mhm.
So that they need the grain foods. The body can use just so much protein. And so protein needs are based on your body weight. And you want to have probably 0.5 to 0.75 grams protein per pound, 1 to 1.5 grams protein per kilo, and there's variation in that depending on who you are and if you're growing or if you're dieting. But what changes is a marathon runner, if they're running 10, 15, 20 miles, they need a lot more carbohydrate rich foods to fuel their muscles than does the bodybuilder. So that protein needs are pretty similar for both athletes, but the total amount of calories can vary. And so I don't really have a separate diet for a bodybuilder than I do for a marathoner.
What about for the
Similar.
marathoner that's training different fuel systems throughout their training?
Well,
Go
the more
ahead.
you train, the more fat that you burn. The more your body is able to burn more fat. And the more you train, the more your body is able to store more glycogen. So glycogen is your carbohydrate stores. So if you're learning to burn more fat and store more glycogen, then when you're running, you burn a combination of glycogen, carbohydrates, and fats. And so, that changes so that you have the more intense the exercise, the higher your carbohydrate needs are. But each person's body is so different
Uh-huh.
um, that the conversation is based on the person and their lifestyle more so than their sport. But again, marathon runners, they need more calories and probably need more water, but yet their bodies are smaller than perhaps the football player or the bodybuilder, so that you have to adjust calories according to body size.
All right. Thank you. Uh, Changing direction here to our focus on injuries. What nutritional factors are at play that increase the chance of sustaining injuries?
When people undereat, when you knock off food calories, you knock off protein that's needed to build and repair muscles. You knock off carbohydrates that fuel your muscles, and if you're training depleted, that can set you up for injuries. If you knock off a lot of fruits and vegetables, you're knocking off vitamins and minerals that are needed just for they're like your spark plugs in your car. They help your body's engine work better, and help keep you healthy and enhance your immune system. So when people skimp on food, they skimp on nutrients, and that can set them up for injuries right there. If people are vegetarian or vegan, are they being responsible and getting adequate protein? It is very possible to be a vegetarian or vegan athlete and get plenty of protein. But a lot of people just stop eating beef, but then they don't like beans. And so they just live on pasta or a lot of apples. And that's not a balanced diet or a healthy diet. So too little protein due to vegetarianism or veganism can be an issue. If the calcium intake is low, is that going to contribute to low bone density and more risk for stress fractures? So that nutrition certainly impacts health. I mean, you just can't deny that. And it's very important to eat well to prevent injuries. But a lot of people pull out good nutrition like a fire engine, and they go, oh, I just broke a bone. Should I start drinking milk? And it's like, no, maybe you should have taken care of your bone health throughout your whole life and not just when you have a broken bone.
Yeah. So that other than milk for bones, how would you use nutrition to prevent injuries?
You use it for proper fueling for performance so that you're not fueling on empty.
Uh-huh.
and you use it for stockpiling your body with the tools that it needs to build strong and healthy muscles and strong and healthy bones and a strong and healthy immune system. So it's the well-balanced diet. And knowing that food is fuel, it is also health.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And could you talk a bit more about how nutrition can speed up the recovery process from injuries?
Well, if you have, say you tore your ACL and you've had surgery, your protein needs are higher, your energy needs are higher, you need vitamin C to heal, you need protein to heal, so that certainly it's all the same. Either preventing injuries or recovering from injuries, it's the same nutrients that are needed. And that's why you want to eat well on a daily basis, so that vitamins and minerals get stored in your liver. And you have, say, enough vitamin C to last you, as a healthy person has enough vitamin C to last for about 6 weeks. And so you want to maintain a good stockpile of nutrients in your body, so that if you do get injured, you have reserves to draw upon. What if you're a bicyclist that gets in a bad accident and you're in a coma and not eating for a while? I mean, this is where you want to be responsible on a daily basis, so that in an emergency situation, your body can take care of injuries and has the tools that it needs to heal them.
Yeah. So maybe some good advice for the athletes, the coaches out there, is understanding what nutrients do tend to stick around the body for a while, and those that tend to get flushed out pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, everything hangs around for a while. I mean, vitamin C, people say you don't become deficient overnight. Like, say, a healthy person has enough vitamin C to last for 6 weeks. Now, vitamins, the fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, you have stockpiles for months. So many people think, oh, if I don't take a vitamin pill today, then I'm going to be deficient tomorrow. Or, oh, if I don't eat any fruit today, then, I'm going to be sick tomorrow. And that's not the case. So that the body does have a reservoir of nutrients, some in bigger supplies than others. I mean, your muscles are a huge supply of protein. Your body fat is a source of energy, so that we have a lot of things stockpiled, but you got to make sure that you've invested in the stockpile and not, eating a lot of, foods with low nutritional value for the majority of your meals.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So we know that in track and field and other sports has a high incidence of eating disorders. What is the dietitian's role in the recovery process?
Well, all sports have a high incidence of eating disorders. We hear a lot about it in track and field, but any sport where the focus is on the body, maybe it's ski jumping where they have to be light, maybe it's jockeys and horse races, maybe it's gymnastics or figure skating. So there are many sports that are figure sports that where there's a lot of focus in on the body. And yes, eating disorders are prevalent. 30 to 60% of female athletes struggle with food, but men also struggle. So maybe 10% of male athletes. So it's not just a female issue. But the dietitian's role is to help transform the food fears into peaceful fueling and effective fueling. And so each food has a job, and that helps to support an athlete in their quest for top performance. And so the dietitian can have a very big role in helping an athlete overcome their food fears, that, oh, food is fattening. Oh, if I eat, a bagel, boom, I'm going to get fat. And like, no, if you eat a bagel, you'll have better fueled muscles. The carbohydrates and the wheat that goes into the bagel is what, helps you be a better athlete. So it's working through the food fears and instilling some good nutrition knowledge.
Mhm.
But very often this little voice that sits on the shoulder, the little eating disorder voice, you know, fills an athlete with a lot of misinformation. Oh, food is fattening. Oh, carbs are bad. Oh, sugar is evil. Oh, meat. Ugh, you know, you're going to get a heart attack. So that there's a lot of negative information about food. So my job as a dietitian is to help people, you know, get the positive information about food and use it as a way to enhance their performance.
Yeah. And do you work with other medical modalities directly with people that are dealing with eating disorders?
Eating disorders is not a nutritional diagnosis. It's a psychological diagnosis.
Uh-huh.
So certainly a therapist is an important part of the team. A physician or a, a nurse practitioner or some medical person is a part of the team, because when you undereat, your heart rate slows down and your blood pressure drops. You can have low blood sugar. You can get into a lot of medical problems. So certainly you need medical monitoring. And so it's good to work as a part of a team. The coach can be a part of the team. And it's important to, you know, an athlete might come to me with eating issues, but food's the symptom. And
Mhm.
the real problem is, what are you doing with your feelings? And you know, it's a lot easier to starve your feelings and not feel them, or a lot easier to over exercise yourself so you're too tired to deal with your feelings. But that's where the psychological part comes in, and working with a therapist, a counselor, to really look at what's really going on. So
Uh-huh.
food is the symptom, and I'm not good enough is generally the problem.
Gotcha. All right. So we'll get more into that tomorrow with our sports psychologist, but it
Mhm.
definitely is a group effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Uh, More specifically, I kind of hate to say this, but one factor that can cause eating disorders are coaches. And I'm sorry for all the good ones out there. They're cringing right now. That do things like weight shaming. Have you spent time with athletes that have been through this experience?
Yes, and I wouldn't say that a coach is the only cause of the eating disorder.
Right.
Generally, the seed was planted far earlier by a parent who said something like, you know, honey, that dress looks nice, but if only you'd lose a few pounds. And at an earlier age, this kid has gotten the message, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm too fat. Oh, I'm only lovable if I'm thinner. And then a coach can come along and do fat shaming, and hopefully that is happening fewer and fewer times these days.
Mhm.
And that can be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because you get into a team situation. And as I mentioned, you know, eating disorders are generally an I'm not good enough disorder. I'm too fat. And, or people end up feeling fat. Well, fat's not a feeling, but generally people feel imperfect. And if you're, you know, not the skinniest person on the team and the coach calls you out on it, it's really easy to feel really imperfect. And oh, if I lose a lot of weight, then I'll be more perfect. Maybe you're feeling inadequate. And if you're, you know, the freshman on the team, it's really easy to feel inadequate, because you're sitting on the bench a lot more than the juniors and seniors that have been there and earned their spots. You know, they're just more mature and maybe better athletes. So it's, like I say, an eating disorder is very, very complex. And it's not just a coach saying, oh, you're too fat, that is going to cause an eating disorder. But we have to look at the whole history. And, you know, it used to be, I have a client with eating disorders who's, again, she got into college and she was always too fat for her family or whatever, criticized. And then in college, they had to weigh in every day. And if you were over the coach's weight or over the percentage of body fat that the coach wanted you to be at, then you were the pig for the day and you had to run around and do extra training. I mean, people were really shamed.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I'd like to think that doesn't happen now, that times have changed. And it can be acknowledged that athletes do come in different sizes and shapes. I mean, there are a lot of athletes now that are coming out of the closet and they're saying, I'm sick and tired of being forced into this body that's not my genetic body. And they're saying, yeah, I'm going to weigh what my body weighs. You know, they've gone the anorexic route and gotten injured and stress fractured and sick, and now they restore their body, their musculature, and maybe they're bigger and heavier, but they're more powerful and stronger and healthier, and they're able to perform well. So society really needs to accept that athletes come in different sizes and shapes, and that judges and that coaches can play a really big role in focusing in on performance and not fatness. The best fueled athlete who's genetically gifted is going to be the best athlete, not the thinnest athlete.
Right, exactly. And thank you for that. I think those words be hopefully much appreciated out there. Yeah. So moving along here, well, finally, what advice would you give to the athlete or coach that is starting to get more serious about their nutrition?
That they work with a sports nutritionist, a registered dietitian who specializes in sports nutrition, that they not get carried away, that they know that food is fuel, that food is health, but having the perfect diet is needless. They just need to have an excellent diet, not a perfect diet. And so, you know, I've talked to people that say, oh, I want to take my diet to the next level. And generally that means no white flour, no sugar, no red meat, no cookies, no fun foods, no birthday cake. And it's like, that's not going to make you a better athlete. That's just putting yourself into food jail. So we need to find the balance. And in our society these days, it can be very hard to find that balance because we live in a food obsessed society, a weight obsessive society. There's good foods and bad foods. It's like, no, there's not a good food or a bad food. There's a balanced diet and an unbalanced diet. And so we have to look at the forest and not just the tree. The tree is sugar. The forest is what do you eat in the whole day? So, you know, dietary guidelines say that 10% of calories can come from sugar. So if you're an athlete who's eating 2,500 calories a day, that's 250 calories of sugar a day. You know, so that's like, you know, 60 grams of added sugar. And, you know, people go, wow, it's okay to have that much, you know?
Yeah.
So this is where, you know, working with a sports nutritionist can help to, you know, dispel some myths and misconceptions and give a person science from which to make their food choices. And, you know, in my sports nutrition guidebook, I talk a lot about, you know, how to make sense in today's food craziness. So I've got information on day-to-day eating, like how do you manage the American food supply? You know, information on sports nutrition. What do you eat? Do you fuel up? How do you fuel up? Fuel during refuel. Do you need these commercial sports food, or is like a banana good enough? How do you lose weight and have energy to exercise? You know, and so these are all important topics to be addressed. And one-on-one advice, you know, working with a sports nutritionist can be very, very helpful. But, you know, my sports nutrition guidebook is also an option that can really help people become more informed from a science base.
Yeah. I think you just took some of the stress out of those that do get obsessive about their eating. So just that stress in itself, I think, can be detrimental.
Yeah, and athletes tend to be perfectionists.
Hmm.
They want to eat the perfect diet and have the perfect training program and have the perfect body. And yes, your perfection and your dedication and your discipline help you be a good athlete, but they can also help you be a horrible athlete when
Uh,
they get carried to extremes. And, you know, and like I say, you don't have to have the perfect diet. You need a good enough diet. You don't have to have the perfect body. You need a good enough body. And you were born with an excellent body. You'll always have an excellent body. You need to fuel that body. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Um, so we're gonna, those are all the questions I have today, but we do have some questions from uh, those watching right now. So I'm gonna go through those.
Mhm.
Uh, what are the best foods for electrolytes? What about Gatorade or electrolyte tablets? What do you think about goo? Uh,
Well, electrolytes are electrically charged particles that are more commonly called minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium. And food is loaded with minerals. So if you have fruits and vegetables and whole grains, you get them. Sodium is really the important mineral that gets lost in sweat. And so if you sweat heavily, and if you're craving salt, you should be eating salty foods. The amount of sodium that's in Gatorade or a sports drink is really quite low. So for example, a slice of bread might have 125, 150 milligrams of sodium in it, and 8 ounces of Gatorade has 110 milligrams of sodium. So you get more electrolytes from a slice of bread than you do 8 ounces of Gatorade. Um, so people really need to compare food labels, and
mhm.
you could compare the food label on um, a sports drink or an electrolyte product versus orange juice, which is loaded with potassium. And I generally advise my athletes to get their electrolytes through food
Mhm.
because it's a better source, and you also get other things along with it. But many of these, sports drinks are really designed to be taken during endurance exercise. And at that time, if someone is exercising for more than 3 hours in the heat, or if they're exceptionally heavy sweaters doing double workouts, they might need additional electrolytes. But if you're working out that hard, you can have a few handfuls of pretzels. You can put extra salt in your oatmeal. You can enjoy some pickles and some olives. A ham and cheese sandwich with mustard is just loaded with electrolytes, with sodium. So fruits and vegetables are generally the potassium, and your meals contain the sodium. Spaghetti sauce has a lot of, tomato sauce has a lot of sodium that's in it. You just add a little bit of extra salt if you think you need extra electrolytes. But there's not a lot of athletes that need to buy electrolytes.
Uh-huh.
Um, that are, again, there are certain situations. There's a time and a place for everything. An Ironman triathlete is not the ordinary person. So they might find that it's easier for them to consume more sodium through, electrolyte products. But an Ironman triathlete, that the ones that finish the best eat the most. And if they're having peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and bananas and pretzels and, other foods to fuel themselves, and they will get the electrolytes that they're needing.
Yeah. Uh, and would you apply the same sort of thinking to gels in regards to getting calories in?
Yeah, again, there's a time and a place. Some people like gels, but research shows that, you can have raisins, you can have bananas, you can have that real food works. So you want to figure out what works best for your body. Sometimes the problem with gels or sports drinks is, say, if you're doing endurance exercise and you need, at least a couple of gels an hour, and you're out there for 3 or 4 hours, it's like you get sugared out. And then it's like, ooh, then what do you do? And so this is where your body's used to real food.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to train with whatever you're doing, so that if you train with, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, then you use them when you're competing, and they work fine. But there's different sports. Like runners are more likely to use gels because when you're running and jostling the stomach, peanut butter and jelly sandwich doesn't settle as well. For bicyclists with a body is stable and not jostling, they can do more with real foods. So it really, the use of gels really depends on the sport and the situation. But in general, it's 100 calorie of carbohydrate, and you can get 100 calories of carbohydrate in many, many different ways.
Right. Do you find that, we'll stick with runners because of the jostling, that they can train their bodies to take in that solid food and not have any kind of stomach issues?
Yeah, the gut is trainable, and sometimes stomach issues come from the commercial sports foods because you're taking in sugars that maybe your body's not used to.
Mm-hmm.
But if an athlete has intestinal problems or intestinal distress, again, they want to work with a sports nutritionist who can help them figure out what's causing the problems. Sometimes it's things as ubiquitous as onions and garlic. Sometimes it might be apples and foods that people don't suspect, like these healthy foods. How could they be bad for me? But there's research coming out showing that different people have trouble digesting different types of carbohydrates. And the type of carbohydrate that's in an apple can be hard for some people to digest. Other people have trouble digesting the carbohydrates that are in onions, or in just a variety of different foods. So intestinal problems can be managed with proper guidance. And I highly recommend that people that do fret about GI distress and, fecal urgency, that they seek out some professional guidance from a registered dietitian who can help them manage the situation.
Thanks. This is probably going to be athlete dependent, but is there a point with endurance training where the immune system actually starts to be depleted?
The immune system, some exercise enhances the immune system. Too much exercise, when a person becomes overtrained, can deplete the immune system. So that just because some exercise is good, it doesn't mean that more exercise is better. More exercise can put you over the edge. But we do know that training depleted can really reduce immune function. And so, again, it comes back to food as a way to boost immune function by eating adequately. But if people are doing long runs and not fueling during them, then they're really starving themselves, and that can be bad for the immune system. And so carbohydrate during extended exercise is a good way to help to maintain a stronger immune system.
Thank you. If you have any experience working with weight class divided sports like combat sports, gymnastics, how does their nutrition periodization plan look like? What does it look like? And then it goes on to ask us, especially with their make weight phases where they need to change weight classes, are they as sudden as the weight cut jump? I'm trying to reinterpret this here. So let's get into their nutrition periodization plan. Let's start there with athletes trying to weight class.
Yeah, so if somebody needs to lose weight, they don't want to say if they have to weigh 116 pounds for whatever their weight class is, and their natural weight is 122 pounds, they don't want to get down to 116 and stay there all the time, because there's just too much. It's too hard, it's too restrictive. The less they eat, the fewer nutrients they're taking in. So before, a couple of months before the event that they have to weigh that lower weight is when they might start, chipping away a little bit. But this is where, again, working with a sports nutritionist can help them figure out how to lose weight and still have energy to train and to do quality training. I've worked with a lot of wrestlers that think that they have to starve themselves and live on celery, and it's not, you don't have to starve yourself to lose weight. You can just chip off 200, 300 calories a day. So you stop having your bowl of ice cream at nighttime. I know somebody who lost weight who said, Nancy, the only change I made was I stopped drinking Pepsi at lunch and at dinner. And he chopped off 300 calories a day. And over the course of a year, he lost 30 pounds. I mean, he wasn't a weight class athlete, but the message is that small changes can make a big difference. But if you cut your food intake in more than half, then your body sees it as a famine, and you have to hibernate. And so I see a lot of frustrated athletes who are dieting way too hard, and they cut back way too much. And some of them end up binge eating, and then that is a whole nother problem in itself. Or some of them just end up hibernating because they're just in starvation mode and living on very few nutrients and not enough protein, and then they end up getting injured. So weight classes are a real problem. And yeah, they are. And so really it's a one-on-one conversation, depending on how much weight that athlete has to lose. Is the weight class realistic? Is their goal realistic? So that has to be addressed as well.
All right. Next question is thoughts on fad diets, and are they really just a play on the concept of caloric deficit and negative energy balance?
A fad diet is just one way to cut calories. So you can go on the banana diet and lose weight. You can go on the Subway diet and lose weight. You can go on the cabbage soup diet and lose weight. Any of those diets, any diet puts somebody in food jail. And when you're in food jail and not eating your full complement of calories, you will lose weight. But what happens when you come out of food jail? Have you learned how to eat? Because it's people's eating that gets them into problems. And if they haven't learned how to eat appropriately, then they're going to have to end up back in food jail again, because they'll just end up regaining all the weight. So my job is to teach people how to eat appropriately in a way that they can sustain for the rest of their life and manage their weight simultaneously. So diets don't work. It doesn't matter what diet it is. Eating works. Eating appropriately works. People who eat are thin. People who diet are heavy. So dieting makes you heavy. Eating helps you maintain an appropriate weight, if you think about it. I mean, you look at who eats salads at lunch. Heavy dieters. Who eat sandwiches at lunch? Leaner athletes. So if you're struggling with how to lose weight, again, this is where you can work with a sports nutritionist for one-on-one personalized advice. But, the first 3 words of diet are die. And it's like, if diets works, then everybody who's ever been on a diet would be thin. It's like, no, they end up being heavier, because for every diet, there's a bigger backlash. So that's eating is really the key to weight success.
Excellent. What are your thoughts on sodium to combat migraines, especially post-workout migraines?
That's not my area of expertise, so I can't comment on that. I don't know.
All right, no worries. And then, let me see, this is a follow-up from a previous question. What foods boost the immune system while an athlete is in training?
All foods. I mean, the
Mm.
immune system is protein. The immune system is vitamin A. The immune system is iron. It's zinc. So you need all nutrients to maintain a healthy body. And that's where you really want to look at food. Yes, you can take, immune boosting vitamins or whatever, but food is more than just vitamins. It's a complex matrix of synergistic nutrients that work together to help your body be the healthiest that it can be.
Yeah. All right. And then our final question, and this is asking about gluten. And I know there's some people that have celiac disease, but is gluten across the board bad?
Gluten is a protein. Protein is good. So there's no problem with gluten unless you happen to have celiac disease. So I would encourage people to stop being afraid of gluten. If you have, there's certain people, 3%, 7% of the population has celiac disease. I think it's 3%. And 7% maybe have gluten sensitivity. So that's maybe 10% of the population, but 90% of the people can tolerate it just fine.
Mm-hmm.
So many times people go on a gluten-free diet saying, oh, that's how I'll knock off calories. You can go gluten-free, you don't eat bread, you don't eat bagels, you don't eat cookies, you don't eat, pretzels, you don't have a lot of foods. And so again, it is a way to cut calories. And for some people, they might lose weight, but it's not sustainable that way. And are they eating a very healthy, balanced diet? So I'd have to know why a person wants to stay away from gluten. It's always important to understand why an athlete might want to do certain nutritional things, and then have a conversation about what the science shows and see if that matches what the athlete is thinking.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Nancy. It's been wonderful. I think there's some wonderful insights for our athletes and our coaches out there. So very appreciated.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and I hope that people have gotten some helpful information. And as I said, if they're looking for a resource just to keep on their shelf, my sports nutrition guidebook, Nancy Clark's sports nutrition guidebook, has sold more than 750,000 copies, and that's all through grassroots people saying, this is a really helpful book. So it's available on my website, which is nancyclarkrd.com. So NANCYCLARKRD as in registered dietitian.com, or Amazon.com, or if we could get into the libraries, you could probably even find it in the library.
All right. And if people have any further questions for you, can they contact you?
They can. Yeah. If you go to my website, there's a place called Contact Nancy, and you can send me an email and just say that you listened to me on this session, and you have a question, I'll be glad to answer it.
Great. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right. It looks like lots of thank yous coming in from the chat. So everybody's loving this. So, all right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. And we'll hopefully get to talk with you again.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
You too. So I'll let Nancy log off, and then just a reminder that we will be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock again, and for our final speaker of the summit, international expert in the field of applied sports psychology, sports psychologist Dr. Margaret Otley. Again, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern tomorrow. And then helping us put on this summit are the National Scholastic Athletic Foundation and with assistance from athletic.net. We'd also like to thank the raffle donors, and they are Altus with a 6-month membership and a 12-month membership to their Altus 360 digital video library. Earbuds, 2 pairs of earbuds from Jaybird, and 4 pairs of earbuds from JLab. Again, a signed copy of Nancy Clark's Sports Nutrition Guidebook. 2 signed copies of the Trail Runner's Companion by Sarah Lavender Smith. 2 signed copies of The Anatomy of Sports Injuries written by Brad Walker, and a sampler pack from Honey Stinger. And we'll do that raffle, I'm gonna do that raffle on Friday afternoon. I'm gonna do that Facebook Live at 3 p.m. Eastern, and do some more details about that. A reminder, if you're watching over there on Facebook, the only way I can track for you to be in the raffle is if you like these interviews. So go back through Facebook and any of those videos of the interviews you've seen, like those, please. And so we will be back at 11 tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.